Hello and welcome back to the Authentic Creative, expanding our capacity to feel good. I'm so excited because I've got my new friend here, Tosca.
Oh my gosh. Hi, I'm so happy to be here too.
So I'm going to read just very briefly. Tosca is a former Fortune 100 executive who worked her way up the corporate ladder from admin assistant to Wall Street executive. The trade offs that came with a management job at a renowned company usually seemed worth it. Hold on, putting on my glasses here. But the higher Tosca climbed, the less power she seemed to have. The money and prestige were there, but the ability to really do what was right for her team members was not. So Tosca left her Wall Street position to write a book on reworking the workplace and to launch Manager on a Mission, a management movement based on trust and empowerment instead of fear and intimidation. Tosca also hosts the Manager on a Mission podcast and is a volunteer career mentor, competitive karaoke champion. That's so cool. I'm obsessed with karaoke. An intermediate adult figure skater. She lives
Intermediate.
still very cool. She lives in the LA area with her woodworker husband, who I just interviewed, two rescue chihuahuas, and three parrots. We also have a rescue chihuahua too.
You do? Aw, they're the best.
So how are you today? How are things for you in this moment in time? November 1st, here we are. Oh my goodness.
I know. I can't believe it's November, but it is stunning here in Los Angeles today. So that is helping with everything.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. You look gorgeous. I love your out. I love your shirt. I love your funky earrings. I love
They
your
are.
hair,
I
your
love a
makeup.
funky earring. I'm all about earrings.
You're rocking it. So thank you so much. I'm very honored to have you on the podcast, and I'm really excited to just start to be friends with you and your husband because you guys are the
Thank you.
coolest.
Thank you. Yeah, I was telling him you're gonna love her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I'm
had
so
such a
glad to
fun
be.
conversation yesterday.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, he was inspired.
Well, we recognize, if you're watching on YouTube, we recognize the background.
I was gonna say, I thought about that after I told him to use my studio because the parrots were going crazy yesterday for whatever reason. They were really loud, and
Oh
his
yeah.
studio is adjacent to their room. So he was up here with the fake bird, that guy right there, and not the real bird.
I did notice that. Okay, so
Yeah.
here's the question for you.
Okay.
So, how did reconnecting with your values and purpose
Mm.
inspire you to create Manager on a Mission and lead with authenticity?
Yeah. Okay. So arriving there was not pretty. I'll say that. It was traumatic. At,
Mm.
at turns traumatic, but also liberating at turns as well. We don't really, at least I didn't give myself a lot of space to have two sides in my life. I was always the business side because you get rewarded for that. And some of the
Yeah.
rewards are real, valid, important. But this side, I starved it. I didn't just prioritize the business side. I mushed down the other side of myself. And that became a thing I couldn't do anymore, which was odd because my logical brain was fine with what I was doing, but
Mm.
my soul or my
Yeah.
coin was not. And it
Hmm.
was giving me alarm bells for quite some time that I was pretty much ignoring.
So,
Yeah.
speaking of giving you alarm bells, I realized as I was asking you that first question that we should really start from the beginning. Like, where did you grow up?
Okay, I grew up mostly in the Oakland, Alameda area of the Bay Area. So that's a suburb of San Francisco for anybody who doesn't know that. And I was in the Bay Area for pretty much all of my life until I met Christopher, my now husband, and he and I ended up moving all over the country. But before that, I was a local girl, but I had always had this like desire to live outside of California. Why does everybody come here? Why does everybody love California? What's the big deal? Surely it can't be that amazing. There's got to be other things about other states that are fantastic, and there are. I'm glad that I did explore those. But before I met Christopher, I was there. I was local. I went to San Francisco State University. I studied poetry, which is the
Which is
creative
so cool.
side. Thank you. And I loved it, but it was kind of like a youthful indulgence. That was kind of like, okay, and when you're done with school, you're going to go right into business because poets don't make any money, which is, valid also. But instead of just kind of allowing that to live to coexist, there was definitely a sort of that batting down. And I also, for a number of complicated reasons, I chose to marry an emotional abuser my first time. My first husband
Mm.
was very happy to participate in the smushing down of my real self.
Right.
And there was a part of me that, for again, complicated reasons that nobody here listening, I'm sure, wants to hear all of them. But there's a Catholic school background of like compliance. There's a being female in this world of also, denying self-denial.
Mm-hmm.
There's like family dynamics of
Mm-hmm.
saving people, all of those together kind of conspired to me saying, yes, I would like to marry a project. I would like
Mm.
to marry someone that's work. And I had
Mm.
a delightful boyfriend at the time that I thought, that's just too easy. That's relationships are supposed to be hard. I
Mm.
want to work on this. So
Mm.
I married someone who was, oh, so much work, and it was
Mm.
never going to be a fulfilling thing.
Yeah.
Somehow I found myself, got out of that, got into another thing that was like that, worked on a lot of things to finally get to a point where I remember I had this boyfriend at the time when I met Christopher, my husband, I was dating somebody else. And this
Mm-hmm.
guy called me one night and he said, hey, my roommate and we were wondering if you'd like to hook up. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, I thought we were dating. And also, you were disparaging your roommate the other night, and now you guys want me to hook up with you? I remember thinking, I
How old were you?
34, 34.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the first time when I didn't think to myself, how do I bend myself around to be okay
Mm.
with this thing that I know I don't want? And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that other people don't want that. I did not want that. And I remember saying to him, oh, okay, I'm not doing this. And when you can grow up, you give me a call. And I hung up on him. And that was the first time I thought, I mean, I maybe wasted 2 months on this guy off and on. And that was it. And it was so liberating. I thought, oh, you don't have to try to fix everybody with the problem. Oh my gosh. And it gave room for me and Christopher to move from friends to
Yeah.
partners and then eventually get married. And so
Was it just this instinct that kicked in for you and you don't even really understand it in that
no, it was a lot
moment?
of work. It was a lot of work to get there. It was
Like in that
so
moment that
much
you said,
therapy.
I'm not gonna do this though. That
Mm-hmm.
particular moment of knowing.
I really honestly can't explain it. I mean, I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
therapy, I had done a lot of reading, but yes, like there was an opening up of listening to myself personally and going, well, you don't want that. And you don't have to do that. Now, it took me another 2 decades to do that with my profession. But my personal life, I did figure that out like about 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's these moments where you just really found that integrity within you and stopped
Yeah.
pretzeling yourself. And then, point being is that there's been other moments along the way. It sounds like there's all these kind of markers where
Yes.
you were not belonging to yourself authentically. And
Well
then
said.
where you
Yes.
decided, I'm going to step into my true knowing and I'm
Mm.
going to value myself here and I know what I'm worth. And now this has become so much a part of your work. So, like, you know
Yeah.
this and I know this, but like, I just want to share it is that we know that those relationships and those moments that were so challenging and like hell that
Yeah.
they serve a purpose now because they've brought you to this clearly like whole empowered woman that is serving others in big ways.
I'm glad that it feels like that and seems like that. And sometimes, some days it really feels like that to me too. And that is my goal, to serve other people and hopefully help them get to where I got sooner with
Right.
a lot less heartache.
Yeah,
That's too long. I mean, I guess my journey is my journey, and that's how long it took me. And I can't,
yeah,
in some ways, I'm grateful because then I wouldn't have, the relationship I have now. So
exactly.
I got there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
coming back now that we've kind of touched upon a little bit of your background,
Yeah.
like how did you reconnect with the values and the purpose to inspire creating Manager on a Mission? Where did
Yes.
that come from?
Yes. It came from decades of managing people the way that I manage people. And I had some great managers along the way too that I learned from and wanted to emulate. I actually was pretty lucky for a lot of my career that I had fantastic managers. I also had the other kind of managers that makes you, have the Sunday scaries, as they call it in corporate America, where you're just like, oh God, your whole Sunday is ruined because you're panicked about Monday, or you crying in the bathroom, or
Mm,
you have to go to therapy because of your job, or you're having
yeah,
panic attacks. This is a reality for
yeah,
really millions of employees.
yeah.
And that wasn't my experience before. And then suddenly it over the last, I'd say 20 years off and on, it has been like my first 10 years, for whatever reason, the jobs I was in, it wasn't a thing. And then it was. And when it was, I had always kind of wondered if people were just, soft, or they didn't get it, one of those kind of judgmental perspectives. And then when it happened to me, as is often the case, you develop empathy and you're like, oh, I see what they're talking about. This is very bad. And in a
Yeah.
lot of cases, I was able to affect change at the companies I worked with, and at others, there was not any interest, which I thought was staggering. And I didn't understand it. I thought, well, I have a formula that works. Look at this thing. Look at my team. Look how happy we are. Look how long we're staying. Look at how productive we are. Look at
Mm.
how we work together. Look at how innovative this is. And people were just like, no, don't want that. That's no, I don't have time for that, or whatever it was. There was a resistance. And I thought,
Don't
hmm,
want to give up the familiarity of whatever
no,
that is. Yeah,
yeah,
it's really
I think
hard for
that's,
people to want to, because it's quotes expensive to change.
yes, it is in so many ways, right? Like socially and structurally, and in, people's level in the organization. Yeah,
And just in your body, in your nervous system, in your wiring of your brain, it's expensive
yeah,
to make
yeah,
these changes because what we feel, we think we're safe doing something, even if it's making us uncomfortable, unhappy, making us abandon ourselves, making us nervous, scared,
right.
all of the dysregulation, like we're just so used to it that we think that
Mhm.
that cortisol and that chemical kind of combination is just what is and just
How it
how
feels.
we should just go about our day. And it's just that's
Yeah.
the norm.
Yeah, it's so true. It reminds me, at one point, probably about 10 years ago, I had the cortisol, like that was my operating system. It was a agency life kind of situation. And I went to my acupuncturist and he said, we're gonna do this cortisol test. And I think yours is gonna be really high. And he he had me back the next couple of weeks and he said, okay, it's beyond high. It's such adrenal fatigue. He's like,
Oh,
if I saw this without knowing this was you, I would have thought this was a 90-year-old who's
oh my
I was looking at.
goodness.
And he's like, you need to quit what
Alarm
you
bells. Yeah.
yeah. He said, you need to quit. And also I was going there because you can see my surgery scar. I was having a lot of neck pain. There's a lot of hours like this and travel with the bags and the tension of that. And
Yeah.
I couldn't quit it because there's an addiction to that,
Yep.
that adrenaline rush, and the like you said, the kind of like the power and the comfort with it. And I couldn't
Yeah.
let go for so long.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's sort of an addiction that we all have to this martyr paradigm.
Yeah. Yes. That is
And it's
accurate.
like, yeah, well, I'm sacrificing. I'm working hard.
And hard. Yeah.
Therefore, I am worthy.
The hustle and grind thing, which I'm glad there's pushback now about the anti-hustle culture. Because man, did I drink that Kool-Aid. I was like, hustle.
Yeah, and even in the spiritual world as a healer most of my life and as an actor most of my life, not in the corporate world, I still have that programming. I
Yeah.
still have that hustle programming. Just being
Mm,
an entrepreneur is the
yeah.
constantly feeling like I gotta prove, I gotta very masculine energy of I gotta produce, I gotta produce, I gotta produce.
Yes, masculine energy. That's right. That is pervasive. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's my next question. So
Okay.
what role has creativity, since this is the authentic creative, played
Right.
in your journey from corporate life to a purpose-driven career?
So creativity. For me, the creativity has been in how I tell a story.
Mm,
I I feel like there was something that I have been asked to do or compelled to do, which is tell a story. When I was a Roman Catholic kid, we used to have to go to church all the
okay.
time, every Sunday and
Yeah.
every during Lent. That's 40 days in a row. That's a lot of church. Most Catholics don't do that much church. We did church. So
Okay.
I saw a lot of sermons. Okay, so let me tell you, I would sit there and watch these guys tell these stories from inspiring praise to dreadful tears, boredom.
Yeah.
And I would
And you
wonder,
don't have an iPhone back then.
no, 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 no.
You
Like
can't
my
bring
sister
that
and
to
I,
journey.
we used to play games with the hymnal, or we would like cover words and try to like tell a sentence. It was, we were desperate.
Yeah,
But on the other side, I was also watching, listening, and thinking, I would do this better. Like, this is
right.
how I would tell this story. Why did you start there? That's rambling. Why don't you foreshadow? All of a sudden,
Mm.
arrive on this, end of this story and nobody's bought in. Like, what is this guy doing? There was one guy in particular that we all just would eye roll. Thought, oh no, this guy, Father, in case he's alive, I mean, he's probably not, but I won't say his name.
Yeah.
But it was dreadful. And I felt like, wow, I can do this. I can tell a story. And then all of a sudden in life, there were these, TED Talks, and I would watch those kind of ravenously, like, wow, okay, that's what I want to do.
Mm.
And the combination of the oral storytelling and the written storytelling, that podcasting for me fulfills that. And then I
Yes.
finally, almost am done, wrote a book, uh, which is something I've been kind of threatening to do for quite some time.
Tell me about it. I know.
It's
It's hard.
excruciating, yeah, especially if you like people, because there are no people, it's just you, this screen, and it's
Yeah.
dreadful. So that part of creativity, that's what did it for me, was being able to try to figure out how do I bring this to life verbally, orally, what are the milestones and the turning points of this. For me, that was how I did it, and how I finally was able to go, okay, it's time. It's time to tell this.
Yeah. And when
Yeah.
you're coaching people in companies and individuals, does the creativity aspect come into play at all?
Yeah, it's the same idea. I am always thinking about how to tell the story, and I love diction, the choice of words. I find that to be just enthralling, compelling.
Yeah,
I
you're a poet.
right, I am. And I can't help it. It's what I do. And so I'm always thinking, there's got to be a better way to tell this. When I was in school, it was the same thing. I'd hear a lecture and I think, not how I would tell it. No. So yeah, when I work with groups and I figure out the workshop, it's all about how it builds and I can tell when I'm losing a room. You know what I mean? Like, I get in
Mm-hmm.
that room and I'm kind of like, that person is going to need me to look at them more often. That
Mm-hmm.
person is going to need to be more involved. I'm going to give them a little task. Like, I'm really good at room reading. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
another thing you learn with certain family dynamics,
When you're
right?
hyper vigilant because you have
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
sure everyone's happy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yes, hyper vigilant. And so you can walk in the room and go, okay, room has energy, or room does not have energy, or room has resistors over there. So for me, I really enjoy that part of it. And it's a more productive way to use that skill than to try to, say, charm a husband who is hell-bent on ruining your life, like the first person I married,
Yeah.
right? It's a
Yeah.
lot more productive. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's really like taking our coping mechanisms, what you're saying, and putting them
Mm.
into a useful space to,
Yeah, that was
serve
very
serve
insightful.
your purpose. So
Yeah.
personal growth and healing helped you feel more, how has it helped you feel more aligned in your work and in your life? Like you've done obviously so much personal growth and so much healing and come again and again and again and again back to where is my alignment? Where is my truth? Where is my authenticity? And then this is helping you to serve the groups and the individuals
Mhm.
that you work with, right? Can you
Mhm.
talk more about that?
Yeah. So is the question like, what are the kind of processes or practices that I do to kind of stay aligned with myself? Is
Yeah,
that
yes, let's do that.
okay? Okay.
I like that
So,
interpretation. Yes.
okay. I just want to make sure I was going to answer it the way that you wanted me to. Um, I don't do well by myself. It took me a long time in this business when I started basically November 4th last year was my last.
Wow.
November 2nd or 3rd was my last day. And then November 4th, we went to Italy to visit my brother. We were on a plane in a couple of days. But I thought, oh, entrepreneur, do your stuff by yourself. That do, work on it by yourself. And I so painfully missed my team. I loved my team and I loved their faces, their voices, their contributions, the way that we would work together, some of
Yeah, that
the
collaboration energy.
ideation, the way that somebody says one thing and it sparks something in somebody else that I just don't think I can't do by myself. And I was heads down, I'm working by myself. I'm taking these like online courses, and I was like writing also by myself. I was like, I hate this.
Yeah.
I'm miserable. I had a tantrum a number of times, not pretty with Christopher. I was like, I hate this. Why did I do this? That was so
Hmm.
stupid. And I didn't know exactly what I was so upset about until I joined a couple of communities.
Yes.
One's like a master class and one's almost like an online community that's like a master class, but it's just more of there's messages, there's, sharing, there's ideas,
Those have
collaboration.
been lifelines for me as an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Yes, for sure.
Lifeline.
Yeah.
100%. And just seeing someone else going through it. Somebody else has an idea, someone's been there. Just sharing a meme. I love to share a funny meme, and I had no one to share them with. So all of a sudden, I'm like, yes, I can share the funny little gifts, and get ideas and be validated, and then like meet you, for example, right? Like I've met Linda in the group, and
Yeah.
right? How would I know you exist? Like, there's so many podcasts out there. I am so grateful to those groups. For me, that was like you said, lifeline. Great word. I think I would have quit this without that. I do.
So your favorite thing is going, I'm just kind of pulling this out, is
Yeah.
going into a room and helping teams figure out how to work better together,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Love it.
And because you understand the isolation of working on your own
Yeah.
and the all of the challenges of being in a world, in an organization, in a structure where there's dysfunction.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to pull all of those threads together. Yes, absolutely. And like you said, to create something constructive out of things that maybe don't feel healthy to begin with and write them.
Yeah, you were talking to me when we chatted the other day about this book about leaning in, and you were like, well, how about we lean out? Will you tell
Right.
me more about that?
Yeah. Okay. So for any of your listeners who don't know, but I'm sure some of them will,
Yeah.
it was about 10 years ago, Sheryl Sandberg, who was one of the C-suite of Facebook, now Meta, she wrote a book that was, acclaimed and lauded, and it was called Lean In. And it was, I mean, I'm being reductive here, but it was a call to women to figuratively and literally pull up a seat at the table and lean in and not be shy and not hold back your ideas and be expressive and basically do what men do in business. And I read it at the time and I was like, yeah, do this, lean in, girls. And I would tell my team members who were female, like, you know, what would a guy do? What would a man do? You should do what a man. We should do that. We should speak up. And I worked after I read that book. I worked at this agency in Brooklyn, and the CEO, the owner of the agency, said, if you're in a meeting and you haven't said a single word in that meeting, why are you there? You should say anything, say one thing in that meeting. And I remember thinking, yes, say a thing in the meeting. You know what? And I've never had a problem saying things in a meeting, but I know other people do, particularly introverts, women, people who feel marginalized for whatever reason. You know, there's a lot of reasons people don't say things in meetings.
Yeah.
And there was this culture of, you know, F it, lean in, say stuff, just say shit, right? And we all were like, yeah, let's do that. So what happened during the pandemic, as an extrovert and lean in type of person myself, that was always easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that for a lot of my team members, it was not. It was counter to the way that they worked. It was very hard for them. They didn't feel like it was welcome. They were maybe, you know, 23-year-old women or other reasons people don't want to say something.
Yeah.
And with the pandemic, there was this kind of forced level playing field. Do you see our squares, right? They're the same size, right? Our squares are like this. You're there, I'm there. The CEO is there too. The head of our department is there too. He doesn't have a special seat. She doesn't have an office with a door that's shut right now, right? They've got this square like the rest of us do. We're all at home. We didn't have lights because we were just getting started, right? You know, the shadows and the backgrounds with the babies and the kids. And it was
Yeah. More of a
suddenly,
level playing field.
exactly. And I was doing a lot of reading at the time and thinking about how to lead remotely, which I'd done off and on a lot of my career, more than most people, but to lead remotely, like perpetually for quite the foreseeable future. Like how do we do this? And I was reading about introverts, and I was reading about how they feel marginalized, sidelined. I was, you know, reading about minority groups and how they feel often the same way. And I thought, well, okay. And also that extroverts talk over them, which I'm sure I did, right? And I thought, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to not say something in a meeting,
Mm-hmm.
not say anything. I'm going to, in effect, lean out because
Yeah.
I was pretty high up. And I thought, well, if I don't say something, I wonder who will. And I saw slowly other people kind of come to life. And I witnessed that I was saying stuff that maybe wasn't right. It was my opinion. But then because I was the manager, I was a department head, people would be like, oh, yeah, okay, she said that. So that's what we'll do. Which is not what I wanted at all. It just was my training. And then I realized, okay, if I don't say something, somebody else might have this brilliant idea. Or if they don't have the brilliant idea, they have the spark of something that somebody else wants.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Boom.
like being able to create space for listening
Yeah,
and
creating space. And I hadn't, even though I was a good manager, I hadn't done a lot of that. I was always, this is what we're doing, here's how we're gonna do it. You know, you can come talk to me. I'm open door for sure. But I had that lean in energy. And then I thought, you know what? I think a lot of us up at the top need to lean out and see what happens and let other people have a voice for once. Goodness. And I started doing it as a practice. Like, and then there were a couple of groups where they were so used to me doing it that I had to say, I'm sorry, I'm not giving you the silent treatment. I just want to let other people say stuff first. Please go ahead. I have an opinion, but I don't know if it's the right one. You guys go ahead and talk, you know?
I love that there's not one prescribed way of doing anything, right? Because I find that a lot of guidance or advice doesn't actually fit me either. Because, for example, I like to do a lot of output. I like
Mhm.
to put my podcast out constantly. I like to send a lot of newsletters. I don't have a fear of I'm going to run out of material. So
Mm,
that's just not my issue. So when people say
mm,
like, oh, you have to, and they give guidance in a certain way, I'm like, that
Right.
doesn't really apply to me. So it's so different for every person. I think that's the
True.
thing is like really tuning in. What you're talking about is like really tuning into knowing yourself and then
Yeah.
knowing and knowing the room in juxtaposition to who you are.
Yeah. And also to our earlier conversation, being able to be okay with changing how you do stuff, even though
Right.
maybe this has always worked for you. Maybe it's always been good for me to be, commanding and leaning in and, being the team lead.
Yeah.
And then to
Yeah.
just more, to stop doing that.
Yes, it's natural for certain people to just be leaders. I think it's a little uncomfortable actually to not
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
leader for me in particular as well. Like I'm more comfortable like let's lead this.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot to be learned when we lean into the uncomfortability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree. And I learned a lot. And I saw other people come to life, and I saw other people come to the foreground. And
Yeah,
I
like nurturing those gifts
thought,
that they have. Yeah.
yeah, and I thought, have I stifled that in other people before? Oh no.
Not intentionally. Yeah.
Yeah, but I probably did. And this is why I'm so frustrated with all of the conversations right now about the return to office politics that are happening in corporate America. Because if you reduce it down, it is basically a bunch of boomer white dudes who don't want to change the way they lead.
Mhm.
They just don't want to do it.
Mhm.
This is how I grew up. This is what you do. You go to the office, you
Mhm.
dress up, you have lunch, you talk to people, oh, the magic of the water cooler, all that kind of nonsense. I mean, that is a very comfortable thing for people. And they say there are a handful of top leaders on even Wall Street where, I used to work who are saying, you can't lead a team and not be accessible to your people. Okay, I didn't say anything about accessible. Proximity does not mean I'm accessible. How many
Mhm.
bad bosses have you had who sit right here? Does them being here mean they're good? No,
Mm.
they're twisting all of this up because it's comfortable. You can
Yes.
create an ecosystem for your team members to thrive regardless of where you are, in here or across the country or in another country. You can do it. You just have to do it differently. You have to realize that that is your job. I think a lot of what happens with the office and the water cooler magic is what they're saying is I let the trappings of the office do a lot of the work for me. Because if I'm not a great communicator, if I'm not good at sensing that someone on my team is having a stressful day, if I'm not good at having a training program, the trappings of the office will pick all that up for me. Because, someone will be sitting here like this, and
Mhm.
a kind person who is better at training will go, "Hey, are you doing okay?" And what was happening during the pandemic is they didn't have that lifeline. And so a lot of
Mhm.
this kind of got ascribed to, oh, they're failing because they're remote. Well, they're failing because you didn't actually have a system to replace what the office kind of naturally does to help out managers who really don't create programs and systems for their teams to thrive. And so that's why I'm so annoyed at it, because there's absolutely a way to lead well there or not there. There,
With
we are,
people having their authority and being safe
yes,
in their space. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. I
Yep.
love how passionate you are about it. Okay, here's my next question. So, how do you
Okay.
trust? This is leading into what I'm asking. How do you
Okay.
trust an empowerment help leaders create more authentic and supportive workplaces? I mean, literally, that's what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
do
I
trust and
think that,
empowerment help leaders? I mean,
yeah,
that's what we're saying. We're saying give
what we're
people
saying.
trust and empower them
Yes. And
to
understand that,
create these authentic workspaces that are more supportive because they feel
yeah.
supported. Yeah.
Yes. If you assume it's part of the return to office mythology, you assume that people are doing work because you're watching them. That's a lot of what's kind of wrapped up in this. So how am I supposed to know if they're working or not? There's so many ways to
Results.
know if they're working, but is that really what your goal is? I mean, are you not creating a vision for them to get inspired by? Are you not showing them what success looks like? Are you not making them an integral part of what the team is doing? then you don't ever need to ask, are they doing their work? Because they want to do it. They show up because they care. Like most of the people, the vast majority of people on my teams, and I'm not on my teams, people who I know, you know, acquaintance wise at work, they're there because they're good at what they do. They love it. They're passionate. They want to make a difference. They don't want you to watch their back. And some people are going to do something in 3 hours, and some people it's going to be 30 minutes.
Yes.
And sometimes it's going to be different, and they're going to be the, you know, the opposite. Is that really what we're doing with people? I mean, goodness.
Well, also, there's
Wrong
this whole
thing.
thing of like the male cycle being 24 hours, right? And the female cycle is a month long or
Mm.
25 days long, right?
Mm.
And so we operate differently with our rhythms and our cycles
Wow.
and our productivity. And it doesn't mean that just because someone gets more done one day, the next day, like within that 24 hours, it's really looking at like, let's look at the whole month, like
Yeah.
because you could get more
Mm.
done when you're on your period in an hour just
Yes.
downloading. You know, I had an episode with Kate Northrup where she's like, when you're on your period, just journal, just get in your bed,
Oh,
journal,
yeah.
you'll get all the answers
Mm.
for the whole month.
Wow. I never thought of that, but I absolutely see that in the women on my team and in my own experience. I'm past that part of my life, which is a weird other transition. I'm not sure I like that part. Like I kind of miss the monthly cycle. I really do, actually.
Oh gosh.
I do.
I'm
I know it sounds weird to people who still have it, but you might feel differently when it's gone. Um,
right. I might.
but yeah, like the energy. I remember the like the day one of the cycle when you all you want to do is like be in bed, and it's so weird. It's like life hurts. I don't know how to describe that.
Hmm.
And you feel like you're on the verge of tears, kind
Hmm.
of. And do we really want to force people to work through that? Like, why? Why do we need to do that or work through it in a way that doesn't work with their rhythm and their cycle? And I have found, and I had to create kind of artificial breaks in the work that we were doing, that sometimes if we just held off a little bit, the work
Hmm.
would disappear or
Hmm.
change. Because there's a lot of like frantic,
Right.
to your point, frantic male energy of like, get this done, do it now. It's important. So and so is asking for it. They need it for the thing. And then you're just like, oh my God.
It's
And then
urgency
all of a sudden,
economy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like, they don't need that.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't need that. Actually, they changed their mind.
Yeah.
So I found that when we put some, what I would call speed bumps in place, we all did a lot better because the stuff that was truly real and strategic would rise up and show itself. If you don't allow that kind of space, you're just constantly chasing your tail, and it's not a good way to work. It's what is causing the burnout. It's just a never-ending cycle of productivity.
Yeah, and I feel like this internalized toxic capitalism inside of
Um,
me. I work from home and I don't work with teams, but I do this, and which is very rewarding, but
yeah.
it's in there, it's ingrained.
Yes, it is. It really, really is. And we're spending a lot of our energy, I think, in this space trying to pull back from it, unravel it, find a
Yeah.
new way to work. And that's why the RTO, return to office, I find it so heartbreaking that like we actually moved forward. We let
Mm.
women who were breastfeeding have corporate jobs and
Yeah.
without having to worry about all of the things I know women have to worry about, even though I've never done it myself, I know enough to know like that's not easy to work around everybody says 9 to 5. Those jobs are not 9 to 5. They are 8 to 6, 8 to 7.
Yeah, because if you're not showing up the 8 to 7, then you look like you're not caring. Yeah.
Right.
That you're not
Yeah.
invested. Yeah.
Right. And it's just not true. And so I find it just so sad that we had this way that people were able to move forward and have that part of their lives and also be respected at work and have it fit into their schedules. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, no, that's not
Mm.
working for me. I like being in the office because I'm used to it. The water cooler, and everyone's just going, who cares about the water cooler? Why do you guys keep talking about that thing? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it is what I'm hearing is like there's a familiarity and then there's a sense of control and
Yeah,
tradition and then there's
tradition.
also like a boys club kind of
Yes.
thing and a lot of it's just control.
Yeah,
Yeah, like just
it is.
feeling more comfortable with this false sense of control. That's not actually about the vision of the company and how it works
No.
best.
No, no, no. And in fact, there have been quite a few studies that show that companies do as well or better when they have at least hybrid arrangements.
Yeah.
And that there are companies who are blaming their poor performance on people being distributed. But come on, you guys bought a bunch of other companies and people don't work in the same office anyway. Like maybe it has
Mm,
something to do with your disjointed people strategy as opposed to,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so last question here. What
Mm.
simple practices do you suggest, Tosca, for leaders to bring more fulfillment and creativity to their teams?
Okay. So I'll kind of wrap up some of the things that I've said, but do it in like in order here. So first, the belief that people want to do good work. You
Oh,
gotta trust
I love it.
you gotta trust them. If you think people don't want to do the work, you really have to reframe.
Mhm.
And also that your work there is not to correct, but to coach. And so if you don't have time to do that, again, to me, that's not doing it the way that helps people be fulfilled. Also, being able to make it not about you. So all of these things are about kind of subverting the role so that the leader is there in service of the team as opposed to the other way around.
Mhm.
My job, show up with the energy that even if I'm having a bad day, even if I'm stressed, even if I don't want to be there, I never take that out on my team. I might let them know about it and say, "Ooh, today is just crazy, but I'm here for you. You are my top priority." And I bring the energy so that they know why are they don't have to spend any energy on me. Why
Mm.
would I make my team do that? You think about that, right? All the time of like, oh, the micromanaging boss, oh, the boss who gets mad, oh, the boss who's, shows their stress and takes it on their team. Who's going to get more work done? The people who are like, Tosca is a joy to work with and she lets me do my job, or the I don't know what I'm going to do today. I have to manage up all day because my boss doesn't understand what I do. You know, come on. So it's about that mindset of
Well,
who
and
is
they're
the
gonna
person
burn out, and then you're gonna have to hire new people and start all over again.
happens all the time. Yeah. So it really is that mindset of, to me, that's joy. You bring the joy of service and you are there to help them, not just with their job and the work, but with their careers and their fulfillment in those careers. And I don't take anything personally at work with my team. If they're having a bad day, I make more money, I have more experience, I have more context. They get to have a bad day in front of me. I'm there to help them through that, not them. Oh, Tosca, she's having a terrible day. Let's help her out. No, I know what I'm doing. Like, I need to let them have the room to just do their jobs and not worry about me.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, what is the dream? What would be like the ultimate for you? What would be the ultimate? There's two things really. One is like for you personally,
Yeah.
what's like your best day with your work, if you
Mm.
could see a certain outcome, and then just for as the collective of your bigger vision for us as humanity, you know.
Okay. So my big day, of course, I would be telling a story, right? I would love to do my TED Talk. I would love to talk about that and have the way that, say, someone like Simon Sinek or Sinek, however you say it,
Hmm.
he talks about a lot of the same stuff I talk about.
Yeah.
He's just a guy, and
Mhm.
people, they love him. I would like to be able to have people recognize what I'm saying in the way that he gets recognized. I would like that because I think we say
Great.
the same things, but I think I also have a different take too. I think it's compatible though.
Hmm.
Maybe even like, if I could do the speech with him, I would love that. Like, I think that'd be great. And I would like to be able to have that be something that changes how other leaders lead, and that they want to bring me in at the highest level and say, we want to rethink our people strategy. That
Yeah,
to me,
we want to lead
a work,
better.
yeah, we want to lead better. Come spend a month with us and talk to everybody and see what we can do, and let's do that together. I would love that. That would be so fulfilling. So the, being on stage with Simon would be like, I think my gateway to making that happen.
I love it.
Yeah, I would like to do that, or by myself if I, if
And
people,
so it is.
yeah,
Awesome.
I would like to do that.
Yeah, and then the greater vision, the greater dream is to see systems and organizations and just people thriving, being heard. I mean, what is the bigger dream?
Yeah, that work doesn't make people sick, that it doesn't make them scared, that they aren't burned out crying, that we're not, in
Mm.
fact, we didn't get into this, and I do it on my podcast. You can go there to hear about it.
Yeah.
But the language we use blames employees. It does.
Mm.
It makes it their fault, and it makes it their
Mhm.
responsibility to deal with. Even
Mhm.
just look at the wellness programs that we have in corporate America, right? Like, unless you fix the cause, the root cause of burnout, all you're doing is assigning another
Mm.
task to people
Yeah, it's a
to
band-aid.
contend with, right?
Yeah.
So I would like that to stop. I would like people to be able to go to work, know what's expected of them, be pleasantly surprised that their boss cares about them and is big enough to allow them the runway to do their work, have a fulfilling career. The layoffs are crazy right now. We need to create a more stable, fulfilling, safe place for people to do great work.
I
That's what
love
I,
it. Oh, that's so beautiful. Yes, please.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for letting me talk about it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming on to the Authentic Creative. And just what's one thing, Tosca, that you do personally to expand your capacity to feel good?
I have been doing this most days since I was in college. I just do some basic sun salutations. Like, yoga, for anybody who doesn't know what those are, it's like kind of the foundational set of moves. Um, Even though, maybe it's creaky or it hurts, or, had a surgery, like, I just try to get into my physical self and connect it to the other parts of me.
That's
Even if it's just
beautiful.
one
Yeah,
round
just
of it.
you don't have to do a whole yoga routine. Just do some sun salutations, just
Yeah.
like three, right? And then
Yeah.
boom. Yeah,
Right.
I love
Right. And
that.
breathe
So
and
simple.
remember. Yeah. And remember who I'm here for. When I make it not about me, it helps.
That always helps for
Yeah.
everything.
Yes. It really does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I can't wait to potentially meet you when I come to LA. I'm coming
Yeah.
in a couple days, and I really appreciate you, and I appreciate
I really
the,
appreciate you.
you two as a couple is so beautiful. I'm so happy to have met both of you. Thank you for the work that you're doing,
Thank
from
you.
the ground up to really create some change that is really needed.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
you ask fantastic questions. I'm very pleased to
Oh, good.
been able to do this with you. Thank you.
Good. You're so welcome. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. You can definitely reach out to Tosca. Go ahead and listen to her podcast, and I'll put the link in the show notes. And then, how would you like them to reach out to you? Is it your website? Is it your email? Is it your Instagram?
All that stuff. I mean, Instagram, I'm on a decent amount, and it's, as you know, noisy, and so I notice it. So
Okay.
Instagram's great, yeah. But there's other ways you can go to my site too.
Okay. And what's your handle?
It's it's Tosca Fasso. So ITS and then my name, TOSCAFASSO.
Got it. Okay. All
Thank
right. Thanks,
you.
guys. We'll see you soon.
So
Bye.
great to meet you.